The captain of the Sewol ferry abandoned ship with passengers still on board. The nation is in shock. To make matters worse, the captain was on break at the time of the sinking. A third-mate officer with only 1 year's experience was filling in. And President Park Geun-hye has visited the site of the tragedy to encourage rescue workers and offer her condolences. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Friday, April 18th. I'm Luke Clary. The captain of the doomed Sewol ferry was one of the first to get off the ship. The nation is in shock to learn that the ship's crew and its captain were some of the first to be rescued off the sinking vessel.
Around 9 a.m., immediately after the Sewol called for help, crew members in the engine room were ordered to leave the ship.
기관장님이 전화로 와서 빨리 기관실을 탈출하라 해갖고 이제 세 사람이 탈출하고 저희 생각에 한 9시에도 기관실을 탈출했는 건데요.
While the passengers were told over the public announcement system to stay put in their rooms, 69-year-old Captain Lee Joon-seok ordered his crew members to leave before evacuating the ship himself on the first rescue boat.
손 아저씨는 9시쯤에 탈출했다고 그러더니 애들이 막 들었대요. 막 개새끼 하는 얘기.
The Seafarers Act mandates that captains should not leave the ship until all passengers are off the vessel.
무지해성하고 송구스럽습니다.
Apparently, passenger safety was the last thing on the minds of the captain and his crew. This is why 59% of the crew members were rescued, whereas only 36% of the passengers survived.
인간들도 아니지. 치가 떨리지. 애들을 어느 정도 대피를 시키고 그랬어야지.
This incident stands in stark contrast to another fatal ferry accident in 1993, in which the ship's captain and 7 crew members were all found dead inside the recovered vessel.
We've also learned that the captain was not even at the helm at the time of the sinking. He was on break with a third-mate officer with only a year's experience filling in. Here's more.
This coastal passenger ship is one of the largest in Korea. But at the time of the accident, the ferry's bridge was not being manned by the captain, but rather a 25-year-old surnamed Park. Park was filling in for the captain, who was away on a break. In the bridge, the navigation officer gives orders regarding the boat's direction to the steerman. This can be likened to operating the steering wheel for a car. Park is confirmed to be a third mate with just over a year of experience under her belt. And it's been less than 5 months since she joined the crew of the Sewol. On the day of the accident, the ferry was passing through an area infamous for rapid currents. Some crew members say the captain showed up only after the ship rocked and swayed. The captain is being grilled as a suspect at the Coast Guard station in Mokpo on charges of involuntary manslaughter.
승객들은 더 늦게 탈출했잖아요. 언제 탈출하셨어요?
The captain fled the sinking ship before the passengers could have a chance to escape.
The ship's hull must be searched urgently and thoroughly for any remaining trapped survivors. Several hundred divers with a range of high-tech rescue equipment are on standby at the site, but they face an enormous challenge.
To search within the vessel, the ferry's bow and stern must be first connected by a rope to help guide the divers. Then the divers, in a team of 2, can go inside the ferry, connected with lifelines and oxygen lines. They go into the boat by following this rope. It's pitch black inside the vessel, and if they locate a survivor trapped in an air pocket, the divers will drill a hole into the ferry to inject oxygen. This is to secure the survivor's safety. Due to this complex process, a search inside the ship requires a lengthy dive of over 30 minutes, much longer compared to a search for people floating outside the ferry.
계속 작업할 수 있는 탐색 줄이라고 해가지고 해군과 저희 해경이 선미 선수를 분담해서 그거를 설치를 하려고 계획을 하고.
Specialized salvage vessels, the Pyeongtaek and Cheongjin, are equipped with the latest equipment and are on standby in waters nearby. An air injection device installed on the Pyeongtaek can supply divers with compressed air containing nitrogen and can assist a rescue operation taking place as deep as 2,500 meters underwater. The Cheonghae-jin operates decompression equipment and a decompression chamber that can accommodate 19 divers at a time. After an extended dive, the divers enter this chamber to expel all nitrogen remaining in their bodies. The Navy has set up a search and rescue team on its 14,000-ton Dokdo battleship for its search operations.
The conversation between the Sewol crew and the Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center on that fateful morning has been disclosed. The crew requested urgent assistance.
The Sewol crew made an emergency call to the Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center at 8:55 a.m. on April 16th. The crew said the ferry was listing and asked the authorities to come to their rescue. When the rescue center asked the crew about the ferry's exact whereabouts, the crew just continued to ask for help. The center official contacted Sewol again after realizing they did not receive any information regarding the ship's location. After the first contact, which lasted 10 minutes, the Sewol crew called the traffic service center again. However, it came to light that the Sewol crew was not the first to report the sinking vessel. The parent of one of the students on board the ferry made a call at 8:52 a.m. on April 16th to the Jeonnam Fire Service after the child had told the parent that the ferry was sinking. The Sewol made its distress call 3 minutes later.
On a sinking ship, time is precious. However, according to new data, the captain waited 7 costly minutes from the moment the ship stopped moving to the first distress call, which could have made a deadly difference.
Except for small fishing boats, an automatic identification device is usually located just above the pilot house. The device shoots out radar of the vessel's location, which is received real-time at the Situation Room of the Oceans and Fisheries Ministry. The track chart is the navigation record of the ferry marked on the map. The track chart also denotes how fast the ferry was traveling. According to the chart, the Sewol was traveling at a normal 33 kilometers per hour until it went down. Then the ship came to a halt at 8:48 a.m. just off Jindo as it lost power. Based on crew and passenger testimonies, the ship likely began to tilt drastically from this exact time. But the captain made a rescue call to the Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center 7 minutes later at 8:55 a.m., saying the boat is being capsized. Why did it take 7 minutes for him to place the SOS call? If the captain called for rescue immediately and if there were 7 more minutes for rescue, many more could have survived.
The Sewol took 2 hours to submerge, seemingly enough time for everyone to get on deck for rescue. So why did so few escape? An announcement urged passengers to stay inside their cabins, costing them precious time in their escape.
The ferry began to roll onto its side at 9 a.m. The Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center orders the ferry to launch rescue boats for passengers to escape. But contrary to this call, the 15-minute announcement made on the ship told the passengers to remain in their cabins. The same broadcast was repeated until 9:30 when the captain fled the ship. Students who successfully escaped say that many people listened to the emergency instructions and did not evacuate.
움직이면 이렇게 쏠리니까 가만히만 있으라고 계속 그러고서 가만히.
2/3, or 104 of the 150 regular passengers, fled the ship, but less than a quarter, or 75 of the 325 students on board were rescued. As students follow instructions given to them, especially in times of danger, they followed the orders, and this may have led to the high number of losses from this group of passengers.
대피하지 마라. 그 자리에 있어라 그랬지. 어디로 대피해라. 그런 방송만 해줘도 애들이 알아서 높은 쪽으로 갈 수밖에 없잖아요. 그래서 많이 올라왔을 거라 생각을 해요.
It's assumed that it was past 10 a.m. when the crew announced to the passengers to prepare for an escape from the sinking ship. But an evacuation was a tall order as the ferry was already listing and water was coming in fast. There is a 30-minute window that determines life and death in disasters such as this one. Due to inappropriate announcements, precious time that could have saved lives was wasted.
Fear and confusion gripped passengers as the ship was turning over. Some students captured video of what went on inside the ferry, sharing every frightening moment with the world.
A girl's voice is filled with panic as water rushes into her cabin. In another room, students are seen crouched inside the cabinet in a tilting ship. Blankets and other stuff has already been thrown against the wall. The ferry has already listed by more than 60 degrees. Passengers wait for rescue leaning against the walls or floors. The ship tilts further and some students in life vests have managed to climb outside. So student makes a desperate plea for help, but the ferry is already sinking too quickly.
와, 물 들어온다. 물 들어. 와, 큰일 났다.
The ship is instantly flooded, and the passengers who have managed to come outside cling to the rails for their dear lives. Just then, helicopters and rescue boats arrive to save them from the nightmarish situation. These footages of frantic life and death moments posted on the internet and social media networks are breaking the heart of everyone around the world.
President Park Geun-hye has visited the site of the tragedy to encourage rescue workers and offer her condolences to the bereaved. She promised best efforts to rescue as many as possible and punish those responsible.
The moment President Park Geun-hye entered the gym where the families of missing Sewol passengers were gathered, their cries grew louder. The president answered all of their questions. First, the president offered her condolences and promised to do her best to rescue the missing passengers.
참담하시겠지만 희망을 잃지 마시고 구조 소식을 모두 함께 기다려 주시기를 바랍니다.
Park also urged the authorities to thoroughly investigate the cause of the tragedy and punish those responsible.
있을 수 없는 일이 일어난 데 대해서 철저한 조사와 또 원인 규명을 해가지고 책임질 사람은 엄벌토록 그렇게 할 것입니다.
When the families brought up the issue of inaccuracies in the list of passengers, the president ordered for immediate corrective measures, receiving applause from the families.
누구보다도 이 가족분들이 들으셔야 되지 않겠습니까? 그러니까 그런 부분에 대해서 여기 그 스크린도 설치해서 모든 것을 자세하게 좀.
Park urged rescue workers to save as many people as possible, stressing that each second matters. Cheongwon-dae says it has canceled the president's schedule for today to focus on the rescue operations.
The exact cause of the ferry sinking is still unclear, but the most promising explanation so far is that the ship capsized due to a sudden change of course.
The Sewol is half submerged in water. It looks like a bus that had collapsed while making a turn at an intersection.
배가 너무 꺾이는 듯한 그런 모습도 있었고.
꺾인다는 모습이 뭐예요? 어떤 의미죠?
그러니까 커브 배를 차로 따지면 커브로 팍 돌았다든가.
The Korea Coast Guard, which is investigating the cause of the tragedy, is zeroing in on how the vessel moved before it capsized. The Coast Guard believes the Sewol fell on its side because its course had been changed abruptly without reducing the speed first. Sources say the captain of the ferry also testified like that during his interrogation.
편에 언급은 하시려고 하셨죠?
그것도 모든 대상이 돼서 그걸 하려고 그랬는데.
The freight and cars loaded onto the ferry were apparently pushed to one side when the ship turned sharply. The loud clashing sound that the passengers heard is also presumed to have been produced by the freight.
급선을 하게 되면 진행하는 방향에서 바깥쪽으로 원심력이 작용하기 때문에 그쪽으로 기울어질 수가 있습니다. 그러면 배 안에 실려있던 화물이나 차량들이 그 기울어진 쪽으로 쏠리기 때문에.
Some speculate that the ferry's steering gear broke down because the captain sharply turned the ferry.
Now we'll take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Please keep your thoughts and prayers with the passengers of the ferry and have a nice weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.